The Susan Brender Show is a radio show online broadcasted on YouTube across the United States and globally. The show features guests who speak about health, spirituality, entertainment, and a host of subjects to enlighten people across the nation. Listen to the show that empowers women and men alike and highlights those who have made a difference.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. You know, I have a riff that I want to talk about today. You know, there are so many crazies out there. They do the craziest things and say the craziest things. In fact, we had a guest the other day who talked all about how smart the squad was. They didn't even mention the fact that they're so anti-Semitic and so much of a problem. And not only that, we have people really pushing this vaccine on kids. And what a horrible thing that is. You know, we're keeping them out of school again. Can you imagine that? And my guest today is Jeff Buongiorno, who is the most amazing guy. You know, he's running on a ticket that is going to do something very special for Florida. And I really feel that he has all of the talking points that are important for you to hear. So let's start off, Jeff, by asking you, what is going on with your campaign? And tell us about some of the things that you're talking about to our audience so that they understand a little bit more about you.
Sure. Well, Susan, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the megaphone. And as far as my campaign goes, basically, it's a campaign of action. Now, I hear the other candidates who are running against me in the primary, and they all talk about what they're going to do when they get to DC. Well, if you ask me, none of us are going to get to DC unless we get the election laws and our supervisor of election straightened out. I think that's still, we have to look back at 2020. We also have to protect ourselves and going into 2022. And I have a plan for both.
Well, let's talk about your plan, because people need solutions. They want to hear what you have to say about that, because just remember, we live in South Florida, and in South Florida, you got a lot of liberals, and these people don't believe in anything that the conservatives believe in, and they love our president and they love our vice president. But I know that you have things that are on your plate that you can talk about that can really make our audience understand why they should vote for you.
Well, first of all, we need to get away from this Democrat and this Republican thing. And I know for ages we've been saying unity and unity this and unity that. But what the people need to understand is that there's Republicans and Democrats that are the enemy. They're the plutocrats. There's basically, it's the people versus the politicians. And a Democrat or Republican, if you're a career politician, you're part of the problem. That's how I see it. There's been 92 years of the American people being asleep at the wheel. And this goes back to something that we're going to get into the weeds on. I'm not sure if we'll do that right now, but this goes back to what's called the Permanent Apportionment Act of 1929. And this term that I use, and it's a pretty popular term. People that are in tune know, they're familiar with the term uncap the House. And uncapping the House is something that will restore the power back to the people.
So you think at this particular point that the people are not getting the information and the education that they need to understand what's going on? Is that what is happening right now?
That's part of the problem, that we're not getting, we're getting one-sided corporate media from state-run outlets. So there is no real media per se. And I believe that there should be legislation against that, against the constant lies, and there needs to be, you know, truth in advertising. I remember when I was in business, I ran an ad for a certain position, and I wrote in the ad, earn up to $500 to $1,000 per week, and they took that as a bracket of you're going to earn at least $500 to $1,000. Now, that little mistake cost me in fines for advertising. And
Wow.
it's just crazy what the media and what even Adam Schiff is getting away with for years and years of Russia, Russia, Russia. And, you lie to Congress, the people lie to Congress, and it's a felony, but Congress can lie to the people for 4 years and 5 years. I have a real problem with Adam Schiff introducing this evidence that's doctored into the impeachment. Jamie Raskin did it into the second impeachment trial. He doctored tweets and brought them in as evidence. They're doing the same thing with January 6th Commission. So our representation is not of the people. It's not self-governance. We got away from that.
Yeah. You also believe in a lot of different things like lower taxes for less regulations. You also feel that the downtrodden to the middle class and beyond are the most important people that we have to pay attention to. And you, last but not least, believe in the Constitution. Now, that is a very important thing because today it seems that people don't. First of all, they don't even know what's written in the Constitution. And our kids, can you imagine, they're kept out of school and they can't even learn, so they don't even know what the Constitution says. So, Bonji, so what I want to know is, how are you getting the message out?
Great. Well, I'm getting the message out through various outlets, social media, some radio interviews, podcast interviews, but more importantly, when your message makes sense, the people will get the message out for you. And what I'm proposing from the local level on up is bringing the power back to the people. And what does that mean? Everyone says it, we're going to bring the power back to the people. I'm going to give you an example at the local level. We have Wendy Satori Link, and I call her the weak link. She is the supervisor of elections. Now, she's one person that controls approximately 760,000 votes. I think that we need to mitigate the risk and we need to break down our supervisor of elections office so it commensurates with the school boards in our district. We have 7 school boards. Now, each school board has approximately 110,000 folks represented. They vote for their school board director. 110,000 about. Now, if we had 7 supervisors of elections, we're going to protect ourselves from any kind of riffraff. We're going to mitigate the risk. We're basically going to return the power to the people, not just to Wendy Satori Link. Let's have an emergency election. Let's have a convention of the people, and let's put up 6 new, we'll keep Wendy, but let's put up 6 new supervisors of elections who are going to count votes by hand. No Dominion, no ESS. And then we know we can have a fair election, because even if one is tainted, most likely the other 6 can overcome that, and we'll have a free and fair election. It's almost the same concept of they want to pack the courts. Well, we want to uncap the House. We want to bring in more of the people to run the government. That's the problem. There's more of us than there are of them, but there's more of them running our government. And that's the problem. We don't have self-governance.
In this particular district, which is District 21, and I'm kind of letting the audience know that I live in Florida and I'm in the District 21, and I see Frankel's name, Lois Frankel, up all the time. She's been in government for years and years, and she has done nothing. And how do you, from your standpoint, what do you feel about Frankel, and do you think you can get her out?
If we can get a fair election, I think I can get her out. My feelings, I know I can get her out, I should say. Lois Frankel, she is a wolf in sheep's clothing. And she voted for the stimulus package that basically allowed Florida's taxpayer money to bail out blue states that were run poorly. She voted for federalizing the elections the same day that we voted for HB 90, where we tightened up some election laws. She is not for the people. These people of Palm Beach County have not been represented at all. Another point with that, there's 760,000 people in this county. It's a very diverse county. How can one person accurately represent 750,000 people? That goes back to that bill that I mentioned, the Permanent Apportionment Act of 1929. We need to have more representatives. If I'm elected, my platform is to uncap the House. And in the next election, let's double the number of House members to 870. Eventually, the House members should stay in their district. They should keep their jobs. It should be a part-time job. It should be a hard job. This should not be a career. After 4 years or 6 years, they're going to want to get out. And if we do this right and we break down the districts, so we'll break it down into 1/8. So we should have one rep per 95,000 people. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 of the Constitution gives us one rep per 30,000 people as a guidance, not one rep per 760,000 people. That's where we went wrong. That is not self-governance. The politicians, they can't be sequestered in DC. Let's bring them home. Let's bring all of those political jobs that goes with the congressman's office, all of the appointments. Let's bring that back to the local people. And then we're going to see that the top 3 most affluent counties in the state will not surround Washington, D.C. In Loudoun County, in Fairfax County, in Richmond County. I think are the 3 most affluent counties. Let's break that whole D.C. up. We don't need it. Nowhere in the Constitution does it says we need a monumental globe to hold our Congress. It's silly, it's wasteful, and all of our eggs in one basket. They're open to risk. They're open to all of these lobbyists and all of these PACs. We need to decentralize DC and bring the power back to the people. And the people have to want the power.
Bonji, let me ask you something. They're saying this in the newspaper, and I believe it. It happens to be that we're a state that has no taxes, okay? We're a state that is absolutely beautiful. Everything about this state, people want to come here. Now, this is what is happening. They're leaving their states to come to Florida, and they need representation that is going to really make this the state that it was and will be. So with that in mind, understanding that all of this community all over Florida is growing, and they don't know you, okay? So give me 3 things. I want to hear 3 things. If I just moved to Florida and I wanted to know a little bit more about you, Bonji, what are the 3 things that you want to do that is going to really make a difference?
Well, I don't want business as usual. We can't have 435 basic plutocrats who do not represent the people. We need to return self-governance to the people. And I'm willing to vote to repeal the Permanent Apportionment Act, which is unconstitutional, of 1929. So that's going to bring better representation. It's going to take representation closer to the people. Okay, that's a big, huge paradigm shift. Now, you have all of these other things that are going on in government. And of course, I support Israel. I support peace through strength. I'm a law and order candidate. I love our great police. I myself served as a mounted deputy sheriff in New Jersey in my 20s. So, I am an America First candidate, but I'm an agitator and I'm a disruptor. And I want to tear down DC, and I want to get the representation back to the people where it's not 1 per 760,000, where it's 1 per 95,000. And that actually will end our forever problem with term limits, because with the 95,000 constituents, a regular person can come into politics, run a great campaign, and reach 95,000 people. For me, the way it's structured now, I have to reach 760,000 people. That's almost impossible. The system is slanted for the incumbents to hold power, and that's what they've been doing. We have to flood the swamp, not drain the swamp. We have to dilute their power. We bring in more reps. We double it every 2 years till we get to about 3,400. And then the AOCs and the Eric Swalwells, they don't matter so much because we've diluted the power. We've taken it back to the people. That's what we need to do. It has to be a paradigm shift. We have to come in numbers, and the people have to take back the government like they're taking back a business, and we're the shareholders of a business that has been run improperly for many years. It's bleeding money. We have anti-American ideology within our government. We have people from the Humpty Dumpty Institute. 33 of our congressmen have ties to the Humpty Dumpty Institute, which is run by the CCP. 11 of our 17 intelligence agencies are run by Marxists. Our school systems run by Marxists. We're at war with Marxism, and I'm the guy to come in and get this ball rolling. But I need other America First candidates to buy in and agree to dilute their own power on the next Congress, which would be the 119th.
Yeah. So there are 4 things that I've recognized that you're talking about, and that happens to be election integrity first, uncap the House, decentralize DC, flood the swamp. And those are the 4 most important things that I hear that you're talking about. Now, let's talk about defunding the police. You were a policeman for a long time, and there is so much trouble with regard to crime all over the country. Now, of course, you're talking about Florida, but there's still problems here. And I'm interested in knowing how you would explain to people that this is a state that is great. Let's not talk about things in a negative way. Let's talk about some of the great things, so name them, and I'll give you like a minute to talk about that.
Yeah, well, we have a great governor. We've maintained our sovereignty as a state. We have our police departments are funded. We have a lot of great things going on in Florida. There's no state income tax. Our energy is affordable. We have it's a great state, and it's the opposite of the blue states. So these people that are defecting from blue states, they need to really leave their politics at the door and vote the way that has what's made Florida great. Low taxes. We believe in law enforcement. We're pro-business. Those 3 things will keep us in the right direction. And this new surge of population, they need to really think about their own policies and come on board with the policies that have made Florida great.
Yeah. And, right now, what's happening in the state, as I told you before, is that so many people are moving here. Now, here's the thing, Bonji, you are running for an office, and you have I might be right about this, or I might be wrong, but you have a relationship with our president, don't you? I don't mean Biden, obviously. I'm talking about Mr. Trump. And Mr. Trump left, and how did you feel about his policies?
Well, my political beliefs were formed during the Ronald Reagan era, and that's basically America first. It was America first back then, and it was America first with Donald Trump. But what the problem is that this goes back to my self-governance. Although Donald Trump was a TV star and a successful real estate investor, he represented the people. He wasn't interested in a long political career. And the media and government and the corporate world, they hated that the power was actually going back to the people. And that's what I'm all about, restoring self-governance. And I was very disappointed when the whole November 3rd, which to me was the insurrection. The insurrection was November 3rd. It wasn't January 6th, but it basically, it's a tough pill to swallow. The country has gone into the crapper in just 12 short months of Joe Biden, and we need to get back to self-governance, and we need to fix the elections. Those two things, and the country should be fine.
I'm interested in knowing about the governor. Have you spoken to him, and do you feel that he might run for president?
I have not spoken with him. I think that we need DeSantis for at least another 2 years, and hopefully so he's running this. He's unopposed now, so we'll have him until 2024, I believe. I don't think he'll run on top of the ticket. I think he may run as a VP, but who am I to say? Anything could happen. I like having a strong governor, one that we know is not part of the uniparty. I think that I look at Greg Abbott, and he's putting up a nice show where he's building a wall and he's doing this and he's doing that. But at the end of the day, at the end of each month, there's always 200,000 plus the getaway. So I really think that a lot of these governors are part of the uniparty and part of the problem. And I believe that DeSantis is his own man, and he cares about the people of Florida, and he's probably the best governor we ever had.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I shouldn't be biased, but I have to tell you that he is just a wonderful, really wonderful governor, and people appreciate him. Now, here's the thing. You're doing a show, and I want you to tell people who you're doing it with and why you're doing it, and also, what the subjects are for the show.
You mean my political talk show?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm doing a political talk show. It's called The Bongi Brief. It's going to air on free TV on the veteran station throughout South Florida. I think that's 11.3 and 11.6. So a lot of the people who don't have cable, I call them the forgotten people. They're going to get to hear about my plans. They're going to get to hear about why it's important to get out and vote. And it's great because it's free. And I believe this is the megaphone that's going to put me over the top and will allow me to get the name recognition to reach out to 750,000 people. Even if it's a small percentage, that's a huge megaphone. And that's part of this campaign strategy, is this TV show on the veteran station to help, awaken the people of Palm Beach County.
And if people want to get in touch with you, Jeff, and I called you Jeff right now, but I call you Bongi, how do they get in touch with you? How do they watch your show, and all of the other things that you do? And are you going to speak somewhere where people can listen to you?
Yes, great question. So as far as reaching me, my website is votebongi.com, and that's with the G, votebongi.com. I'm on Getter at Vote Bongi as well. So you have Getter, and you have my website. You have Twitter. I'm at JB4FL on Twitter. And if you check my website under media and events, you'll see the speaking engagements, and you'll see some more information as these TV shows launch. We're expecting the first show to launch in late January or first week of February.
Well, my guest today has been Bongi. He likes to call himself Bongi, and he is a conservative constitutionalist and an American businessman. And he knows so much about what needs to be done in this great state of Florida. And I really appreciate that you gave all of your information and education to the population of hopefully all over the world. I mean, I think they need to hear somebody like you who really gives a damn, if you will, about the people. So thank you again, Bongi.
Thank you.